welcome back to the Africa Trade Conference. I hope you took the time during the break to actually go in and network and see the virtual trade conference, the virtual trade expo, to see the different African businesses that are actually doing great things on the continent. So welcome back again. I would like to go ahead and introduce Wangeci Gitata. She will be the moderator for panel discussion. Wangechi, I know that was a much needed break after a very, very intense but very insightful panel discussion that we had earlier before the break. And I can't wait to hear more about the global opportunities for African brands. So again, Wangechi, go ahead and take over to moderate the session as we welcome our guests. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. It's been so much fun. This whole discussion about, what are the opportunities for trade, not just regionally, but also just looking at the whole world. And so thank you, Anne, for putting this together. This afternoon, we're going to be talking about brands, African brands and their space in the world. And so what we wanted to do was actually to find out where you're tuning in from, which sector you're a part of, and then, of course, the big question about, what are your favorite African brands? So we've put together a Mentimeter, and if you'll allow me to share my screen, I'm just going to pick that up there. I see that Regina has already started to help me out with that. I'm not on the platform, so I don't know if it is on the platform or if I should go ahead and share it here on Zoom. But I'm going to ask you all to go to menti.com and use the code 19250066. I'm going to put up on my screen here for just a quick second so that you can see what's going on. Can you see my screen? If you go to menti.com, please type in the code 19250066. There are just two questions. Where are you joining us from? Please tell us your city and your sector. And then could you also tell us your favorite African brands? We're not going to take too long to do this. I'm going to leave that running in the background. And if you could, again, go to menti.com and use that code, tell us a little bit about what's happening. We'll go back to this in a little bit. But meanwhile, I do want us to talk about our guests for today. We have fantastic panelists this afternoon, and I'm really excited to invite them all to share their experience, tell us a little bit more about their organizations, and even a little bit more about themselves. I have M-Zenz, who is one of our speakers. She is a founder, actually, of so many different amazing things with a major focus on Africa's diaspora, of which she's a part. So we're going to hear from Joy. We're going to hear from John Karegwa. We're going to hear from Mr. Ojepat, and we're going to talk all about African brands. Thank you so much, those of you who are already starting to tell us where you're joining from and what city and sector you're in. Right now, we're seeing lots of people from Nairobi in the agribusiness sector, trade and investments, digital marketing. We have some people from Ghana who have joined us. So again, as you can see, please go to menti.com, put in the code 19250066, and then that way you're able to tell us a little bit more about the city that you're joining us from, the sector that you're joining us from. And when we get a few more people, we'll move to the next slide and we'll continue to hear from everyone. Meanwhile, I'd like to invite Joy to please go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself, about your organization. I'm a big fan of the work that you've been doing in the SACCO sector. I'm a big believer that people work better together, and you've been able to demonstrate that with the kind of work that you're doing and that you're putting out there. So please, Joy, tell us a little bit more about all this wonderful work that you're doing with, especially with African women in trade?
Thank you so much. I'll be sharing my screen shortly just to walk you through. As you said, women, we have so many hats, and I'm one of them who wear them, some of them very proudly. Sorry, I'm sharing too much here. And the whole idea is to really see how we can bring the best out of us women. And I have to admit, we are powerful women, especially African women, being now in Europe, in Germany, to be specific, for over almost 20 years now. And I have to say, we have a lot of power, potential, and we do maximize it when we get the opportunities. And as women, I love the idea of working around women. So you hear a lot of my platform today, we'll be talking more about women because that's where I thrive best. I have to say that, and with reasons, and that's how we move on to different. As you can see on the screen, I'm sharing African Women in Trade, where actually it's a new baby, and maybe you want to know more how the women come in here. So the African women in Europe, as you can see there on the platform, we have vibrant women all over Europe. And we came together for over 15 years doing a lot of activities. And one of our aims was how to go back home and invest. And that's how African Women in Trade was brought up. And African Women in Europe, they have awards, they write books, they invest as well. We have our diaspora circle. I'll talk more about that later. But right now, about this new baby that started through Africa Continental Free Trade Area is a vision of creating a platform to connect and enable Africa women and youth to trade under Africa Continental Free Trade Area. So I'm going to go a little bit fast with this so that I keep to the time that I've been given to introduce myself, but I like using visually because I think we Africans are very visual. So our mission, as you can see there, is basically to create a platform where we can create market access, Africa brands, and also look for global marketing as well as regional. That is the intra-trade, and as well as creating awareness of what information is there. We have very strong 4 pillars. You can see them. This is sharing information. We do this on all our platforms, our social platform. We have over 4,000 members who are in all our social media, and around almost 300 registered who are already doing trade. And the market access is the biggest thing. We want to sell, we want to make money, we are business women. We want to make sure that our products are out there and into the market, so that we believe that's the only way of eradicating poverty in Africa and also creating jobs. And we also have support grants as well, investments, as you had before from Rachel, our coming governor of Taita Taveta in Kenya. She's mentioned about the video project, which is one of them. I'm here in Germany, that is being managed by GIZ as well, and has really supported diaspora to go back home and create businesses. And we do give a lot of information in this direction. Capacity building was one of them, sharing our skills and knowledge. We also partnered with SheTrade, as you can see, such a platform like ITC. They offer a lot of training, and this is the way, instead of reinventing the wheel, we also partnering with others. And through that, the information, as you can see there, is exactly how I've shared, and I'll be sharing this later on in the future. And our main aim here, as you can see on the platform, is an objective to empower African women in trade, enable trading globally and locally, and as well as eradicating poverty, and following very closely the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which is a new movement. And I think that's why, even if we will not see it in this generation, we should really start embracing on it. So this is one of many, and I have to say that we work a lot more with trust. We cannot do business without trust, so we work a lot building our trust, relationship, respect, collaboration, and these we have been doing over 9 months, and we are so proud to say that we have seen a lot of changes in this. We are focusing on specific areas, mainly in agriculture, export, import, finance, women, technology, and youth, and especially manufacturing and construction. We are very proud of our women who are really doing great work, especially in the manufacturing, in mining, in different sectors. So we have different brands that we're bringing in the market. These brands, as you see here, they're already ready for the intra-trade market. One of them is already for global market, and we are already looking for other products to improve in the near future. What we seek to accomplish, of course, is definitely to empower the women who are doing a lot of work in now and also in the future, and the youth are the very important. So I don't do this alone. We have a team that we collaborate in different areas, and we are a very vibrant team, growing also in different countries as well, apart from the ones you're seeing there. And we are also creating really and challenging ourselves for what the SMEs can do in the near future. So we're also thinking of creating a marketplace where we can really put the women together to do the businesses. We know we have a lot of difficulties on the platform, especially when it comes to money payment, that I can see the Africa Continental has been working very hard to actually leverage the way of money movement, especially with the currencies in the country. So this is a way we will also be working closely. Even then, we are still operating with the little limitances of technology, of social platform, to make sure that we move to the next level. So we are very passionate about partnering with others as well. As you can see, Jumia there in Pan-Africa SMEs, together with the Africa AICE, and in South Africa, and Africa Market in Europe, where we put products for our members so that they are able to be supported here globally, because we believe that's the low-hanging fruits. And something else that is coming up very soon is the Women in Youth program. We know our women in the macro sectors. We want to help them to bring their business out from the informal to formal. And we are interrogating the youth, where the youth can get jobs to really build platform, like things like building a pitch deck, preparing strategy. And these are something that we are working. Of course, we are also thinking of meeting all of our members and exporters in next year. These are big projects we are looking forward to and planning to meet in South Africa, and quite a lot of work around there. E-magazine is also in the process to really marketing. As you can see here, it's about marketing and creating opportunities for our women to be out there as diaspora. This is our role. So here I am, and you can always reach out to us on our platform, www.africawomenintrade.com. And we also have different platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also Telegram. And we're very active on WhatsApp groups. So I'm so happy to be here today on this discussion. So I'm looking forward to hearing also from my other colleagues in Europe.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Joy. I mean, it's amazing. It's so exciting that you haven't stopped, that you are continuing to be as prolific as you are. I can't wait for this e-magazine. Well done. And congratulations on this new project that you're launching. So it's fantastic. And thank you for being that example of effective female-led networks. So keep at it, keep at it. John, Bwana Karegwa, karibu sana this afternoon. You're also another diaspora member who has worked in quite a number of different sectors. The session that we had before, we had someone who had a bit of a similar background to you, in the sense that they've worked on the development side of things, but then now they're into more of the private sector partnerships that can be, you know, that can be put together, whether it's in collaboration with government, or whether it's in collaboration with development partners, like what you were doing previously. But, you know, you come to the table with a wealth of experience and knowledge about investing in different parts of the continent, in different sectors as well. And now you're out there acting as, you know, as this John the Baptist for Africa, to say, come, this is the way, this is the way, this is where we can go ahead and invest on the continent. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, about the work that you're doing now? I know you're busy with the Dubai Expo, and maybe as you talk about that, you can let us know a little bit more about that work that you're doing in trying to bring investments to the continent.
All right. Thank you very much, Wangechi and Anne, Joy. And this is a great, you know, activity. It was, you know, long overdue, and I must say, trade is the way to go. Like you have rightly said, I worked with NGOs for about 20 years. And the funny thing is, with all due respect to people working in the development sector, is you keep recycling problems. Every day you are faced with the challenge that doesn't seem to end. So I made a decision one day to go into business, never regretted, because business provides solutions, and you can see, change, jobs created, goods created, people trading. And so I went into business and I've never looked back. Just to give a little background is I ran two training companies, one in Kenya and the other one in the Netherlands, Capacity Africa Institute and Strategia Netherlands. And apart from that, when I moved to the Netherlands about 6 years ago, I started identifying opportunities, how Africa, can be put to a better position. And one of the niches is identifying investment opportunities for businesses in Africa through the international connections. And we have a conference done annually in Amsterdam. This last year and this year, we've not been able to undertake the conference because of COVID, but we hope we have this conference coming up next year. We've also done trade missions where we bring in businesses from Africa to benchmark on what works best, and also trade missions for European market to Africa. One of the other things I do is, and actually this came in as a result of the opportunities, which came through COVID, is connecting businesses, African businesses, with investors in Europe. There's a lot of money for startups and for even business scale-ups, and we have money for some of these areas. I know this question will come up later. In technology, it's big. In fact, in the last 2 years, of 350 startups have set up, foot in Africa. Agribusiness is huge, and this is a lesson also we learned from COVID, that people, despite the crisis, must eat. So agribusiness is huge. Lots of investors, investing in Africa. Real estate, especially low-cost housing, healthcare is a priority, education, mining, manufacturing, renewable energy, and also, of course, private partnership projects for, dams, airports, roads, power distribution, renewable energy, and so on and so forth. So what we are doing is, I stand in as a representative of about 10 international investors and connect, businesses for some of those opportunities. Because one of the challenges facing businesses in Africa is access to finance, and also access to trading opportunities. So we serve as focal points to connect African business people with European business people, B2B, and also for those looking for financing to set up the businesses or scale up. I know this might look, rather out of topic, but I have my own observations, and I want to quickly list them. In terms of when we go to discuss the brands, there's a perception about Africa. In fact, you want to ask yourself the criteria used to determine the position of our brands, across the globe. But I quickly want to bring in some biases, and I know this may have been discussed in some of the other sessions. And one of which is that, against the light of what we're going to discuss, is that development economies do not regard African brands very highly. In fact, not at all. So that's the first bias. And I want to give an example of what has been happening about vaccination. If a vaccine was discovered in Africa, trust me, nobody would have trusted it. So even as we discuss our brands, there's already a big bias against African products and goods and services. So as a starting point. And the second bias I have is that developed economies treat Africa just for the purpose of raw material producer and not as a trade or export partner. So that even as we go on to delve into the real issue of brands, we know there's a bias even in determining how far our goods and services can go. They question our quality, they question everything about our goods. And then, of course, you know, we are producers of raw materials such as cocoa, coffee, tea, minerals, oil, tobacco, and now the big thing is cannabis, nuts, which then are brought back home to Africa at big prices, and we have to pay for them. You know, we buy machinery, cars, you know, name them, medicine, foods, technology, chocolate, bicycles, and motorcycles, cereals, beauty products. You know, we are big now in buying imported goods from developed nations. So there's a whole lot of market distortion, even as we come to the brands. You all know, for example, Africa only exports about 3% of the global trade. In fact, Netherlands actually exports more to the rest of the world than the whole of Africa, and it's a big shame. So the quality of our goods is highly questioned, and I can give a typical example that when you're importing fruits and vegetables to Europe, you require about 6 licenses to be able to be qualified to import to Europe. And but someone importing goods to Africa, it's free for all. In fact, there's no quality control, and so you can actually see the market distortion and the bias towards you know, African goods and services. So we need to change this narrative and start investing more and more in manufacturing and technology, obviously to have a, you know, an advantage against the competition. China made it through you know, cheap products, and they're the niche, and you can and China is even importing to Europe and to America big time. In fact, right now even the US actually scared of China imports to the US. Of course, related to the brands also, we need to identify niches and invest in innovations. And also, and this I think you mentioned in the questions, is that we need to start enhancing or creating brands that are identified with, you know, such as the Turkish carpets or the Iran carpets or the Italian shoes. I think we need to go in that direction in terms of branding Africa, because nothing from Africa is trusted. From my experience, the Netherlands, they do not have you know, much trust in anything African. So we need to do a lot more. And of course, it's important that, of course, related to that is trading among ourselves. And I don't need to add this, I'm sure we'll be saying in the conference, is the way to go. Let's win at home first, as much as possible. And again, I say the conference is timely. So thank you very much. In a nutshell, thank you.
Thank you so much for that, John. I would just like to hope that that some of these biases are something that can be worked on, right, in order to reverse them. Because, you know, going back to your example that you gave regarding all these requirements, you have African producers constantly meeting these requirements. So it's a shame, though, that they've met all these different requirements and there's still some sort of bias against what it is that they're finding in those European shelves, just simply because it's made in Africa, right? I mean, and if you think about it, there's certain things that can never grow anywhere else other than on this continent. Well, other than along tropical countries, right? So the very famous flowers that the Netherlands exports, yes, the Netherlands is the biggest exporter of cut flowers, but it's not the biggest producer, but it's the biggest exporter, right? Same thing with coffee. Germany is amongst one of the biggest exporters of value-added coffee, and yet we know that there's not a single bush that grows in Germany. So going back to your point about the looking at value addition happening on the continent, looking to your point about really how do we change that perception around the quality and the value of African goods. And we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But before we do, I'd like to introduce our next panelist, who will actually be able to directly address some of these concerns that you've mentioned. He is the CEO of the Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya, and he is Mr. Ojepat, and he's going to introduce himself and tell us a little bit more about, even from your perspective, Mr. Ojepat, could you talk to us a little bit about Kenyan produce, because that's where you're located, but I'm sure you've interacted with some of your other peers. And if you could touch on that as you tell us a little bit more about the Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya and yourself, we would really appreciate it. Karibu sana, Mr. Ojepat.
Thanks, Wangechi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on where you are in the globe, and hoping that everyone who's following us will listen and hear, and by the end of the day, we will be able to act. My name is Ojepat. People call me Oje. I work for Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya as a CEO, and Wangechi said that. Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya is a trade association in the fresh produce industry, dealing with value chain actors, farmers, consolidators, growers, basically value chain actors like transporters. Then we will get into aggregators, and the majority of our membership are exporters of fruits, vegetable, herbs, spices, flowers, and the nuts. Currently, we also then have a few membership that are now into C and C products, and also meat and meat products. We are the leading and the biggest group, fresh produce association, and our business is basically to ensure that we are championing for best practices and just ensuring that we get value for our produce, both in the domestic market, in the regional market, and in the export market. Been here for about 22 years now, doing the same thing every day in terms of the industry. But let me start by what John said, and also congratulate my other colleagues for the remark, and thanks, Joy. Sooner or later, we should be able to have Kenyan coffee and not Germany coffee in Germany. And when we come for Fruit Logistica, we will definitely rate and get in touch with you. Before I go far, I just want to encourage those who are not in the export business that it's doable, it's possible. We've broken down the cartels, the so-called cartels. We've broken down the too much licensing, and the licensing period has come down to less than a month. Unlike before, where we go for 6 months or even a year. Currently, you can then become an exporter within 2 weeks based on what we want to export. We have tried to get all these licenses together. The challenge that still remains is that the African products has to get out there, having gone through a certification process. The kind of certification we were supposed to go through are determined not by ourselves, but are determined by the market. And the world speaks about compliance, and this compliance sometimes is a lot of duplication, but sometimes it's a reality that we just have no choice, but we must then be able to comply for us to be able to export. Sadly, we export very little to the African continent because of the logistics challenges that we have, and lack of trade treaties that agree. But I want to say this, and to the team and to everyone, and saying thank you for this. As I come to close to this introduction, I want to say one thing that John has said. Africans are not on the table when negotiation is done. Decisions are therefore made, and we are supposed to implement. Because simply African countries and governments are not on the table. And when you're not on the table to discuss anything, you become a subject and not a stakeholder. And therefore decisions are basically made. So we are doing what we can. We have to be deliberate, and we must then come out strongly. And Wangechi, we must say who we are. Our identity must be clear. I just come back from Dubai, and I can tell you, our Kenyan products end up in Dubai through Europe. It's sad, and yet it's 4 hours for us to get to Dubai from here, but it takes our products to go to Europe, then to Dubai, and the price on the shelves is about 8 times the price that we should have fetched directly here. So all our profits goes elsewhere. So I bring this to an end and say, I'm available, ready to speak about the brand, but the first brand of Africa is Africa, and Africa must be proud of saying who we are. Thank you.
I love that, Ojepat. I really, really like what you've just said, that the first brand for Africa is Africa herself, and that we need to remember that we are a fantastic and proud people doing amazing things and producing already fantastic goods and services. And we just need to be able to recognize that for ourselves first. There's also something that you said that I liked. I liked how you phrased it, that if you're not at the table, you become the subject and not a stakeholder. And certainly that's not where we want to remain, which is why I'm so excited about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. So we are going to continue to talk about that as we speak today. There was also something that you mentioned when you were talking about the fact that you'd gone to this expo, and there are all these products that are originating from Africa that end up going through having value addition happening on other continents, and then coming back onto the continent and completely skewing our balance of trade. So let's talk a little bit more about that. And some of the reason why they're able to do that is maybe because, I guess there are historical differences, but we're now here in 2021. We're here with the new dispensation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And so what can we do?
Can I just check it up from there?
Sorry, go ahead.
Can I just proceed from where, then I can let my colleagues go?
Yeah.
This is my take. This is my take. Who are we? Do we know ourselves? Are we proud of who we are? We are the first problem, because we have casually traded our country, our products, our brands, and we have sold it with a penny. We can't speak with Uganda and Tanzania. EU, for example, speaks as a bloc.
Correct.
Who are we? We speak as small little people in a corner. Kenya can't speak as a bloc because we all want to send coffee, somebody else horticulture, somebody else this. And by the end of the day, you want to negotiate. Who is negotiating on behalf of Africa? So what do we have to show? And what bargaining power do we have? Can I tell you this? That today, we are the only country in the globe that produces agricultural products 12 months of the year, 365 days, and we have capacity to export throughout the year. But what do? We shoot ourselves by having unfair, petty competition in Africa. And in Kenya in particular, I'm speaking from Nairobi. When Kenyans start competing among Kenyans instead of competing among other nationalities, what are we doing? And trading and becoming unethical instead of standing out and saying, listen, we have a Kenyan bean. I am among the people who said we are not going to sell a Kenyan bean as a French bean or a British bean. We have decided it is called a Kenyan bean because it's produced from Kenya. And we are known for flowers. So we must speak about our flowers. We must speak about avocado. We must speak about how we grow in a sustainable way under the sun. We are not in this emission we are talking about. And we are doing so much things, but who is talking about us? Who is talking for us? We have allowed our media to speak about politicians and not speak about food. Can I tell you today, Wangechi, there is no single human being on the face of the earth that will survive with politics. Everybody must eat, including after this meeting. But whom do we give glory? How do we talk about our innovation? How do we talk about trade treaties? How do we talk about the beautiful Kenyan climate? Look at the way I'm dressed. You don't care. But I'm sure when Joy walks out, she has to have a jacket heavy on it. We have good weather. We're not talking about it. We're not proud of ourselves. So we must, this is the thing for me, so that I hand over this to my colleagues. One, we must believe that we are the sole producers of what we produce, and we must brand it our name. Then we must speak and agree that Africa is a power that must speak. And we must fast track this into Africa trade and stop this unfair competition. I mean, they don't produce beans, they don't produce flowers, they don't produce avocado, they don't produce cocoa, they don't produce coffee. They can only sit down on the table with you. But when we end up being slaves and accept that policies are made elsewhere and are not domesticated at home, we are doing nothing. So this is what I'm saying. Friends, we must arise. If we don't arise, the current colonial system is coming that we will import our own food. I submit.
Thank you. Thank you, Ojepat. Thank you. This is powerful stuff, and especially very important food for thought. We're just sort of coming through this pandemic. And if 2020 taught us all something, it was that idea of, you start, charity begins at home, right? We must begin with what is available, looking at our local market, looking at our regional market, as Anne told us in the other session. It's better to have a close friend. I think there was a phrase about a close friend is better. No, a close neighbor is better than a far friend. And it is good to know, though, that at least within East Africa, that Kenya does trade quite heavily with her neighbors, which is good. And we're hoping that this is something that will continue to expand with the operationalization of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. So I choose to be an optimist, Ojepat, but I do take what you said seriously, because to be honest, how you treat yourself allows other people to treat you a certain way. And how we continue to treat ourselves then allows the world to treat us a certain way. And speaking of which, we're going to go back real quick, if we can, Regina, if you could help me with this, to the results of our poll. We were running a poll a little earlier that was asking people about their favorite African brands. And I'm really curious to see what we've come up with that one. And as that is being brought up, you also, I hope you're curious to know that the Africa Business Magazine, Africa Report, does an annual survey across the continent, and they ask people about their favorite brands. And interestingly enough, there was, to your point, Mr. Ojepat, there was not a single African brand in the top 10 African brands. Am I making sense? So like number one was Nike. Number 3 was Samsung. Number 11, not a single African one made it to the top 10. Number 11 was MTN. That was the first one ranked for top African brands. So as you said, we must really look and see how we're treating ourselves, how we position ourselves, and also how we view ourselves. But that said, the other interesting piece about their research was the fact that when it came to financial services, all of the top 10 were African financial institutions. The first two were from Nigeria, and I think Equity made it to like number 8. Of course, I have to be biased because I'm in Kenya. I have to look for where the Kenyan ones ranked. But you know, so we had like Bank of Africa, GTB. All of those were in that top 10. And so when you start to see things like that, when you start to see that there are certain services and certain things that we value that are homegrown, so to speak, why can we not take this and translate it more widely into all these things that that Joy was talking about, into the things that John was talking about? How can we increase our manufacturing in order to be able to do that? And so I'm going to switch now to John and ask you that question about the fact that, you know, to just hear from you what trends you're seeing in the area where you are in regard to investing in Africa. Right now, a lot of what you do is that you bring people to invest here on the continent in different sectors. The World Economic Forum was saying that some of these highlights are what Ojepat was talking about. It's our tourism, it's our fantastic weather, the fact that we have e-commerce, that we have technology, we've got renewable energy, the circular economy was made in Africa. Let nobody else try and take it over and act like it's a new idea. We've been doing circular economy our whole lives, right? From making the toys to making, you know, tops of buckets, to how our goods are made and processed, all of that. Now we have a fancy name for it now. We're calling it circular economy, but circular economy is made here in Africa. And these are some of the things that we really need to highlight. So John, back to you. Direct question. What trends are you seeing in your area regarding, you know, the interest that is there when it comes to investing on the continent? And not just into existing brands, but into new ones that can then do the value addition here and continue to export globally. What trends are you seeing, John?
All right. Thank you very much, Wangechi. And I must, you know, acknowledge Oje for that powerful presentation, because these are the things that keep disturbing our minds, you know, for some of us in Europe, where you feel unwanted, yet, you know, the country is enjoying the fruits of your continent. But quickly, I also want to chip in to what you were saying before I go to your question. There are three other imbalances that are you know, we come across every day. One of which is about 20-25% of Afric's best land is owned or leased to foreign companies, and I know the British have like 20%. Dubai, the Dutch, the French, USA, Indians. So they grow, you know, they farm on this land and export to their countries. So that now also, you know, leaves Africans at a disadvantage. That's a very, very important point. And I know, in fact, I know for sure the Dutch government actually sponsors its citizens to give them almost 0%, you know, loan-free money to come and farm in Africa. I know of some Dutch who are farming in Eldoret, they're farming in Tanzania, and they are big in growing flowers in Naivasha. And when they take these products to Europe, they have an advantage, they have ready markets, and so you can see the imbalance. The other imbalance is, even when talking about these brands, including MTN and Safaricom, Vodafone, you ask yourself, who owns these huge investments? They are all owned by foreign investors, except you know, creating jobs and you know, paying taxes. All the profits go back to Europe, and that still also leaves us at some advantage, you know, in a big way. So those are key areas. But however, we all know and we are conscious of the unemployment challenges in Africa. I know I worry so much actually about unemployment situation in Kenya, because I come from Kenya, and you know, and of course you have all these politics.
John, we seem to have lost you. We'll wait for John to jump back in and we'll be able to do that. But before he does that, I'm just going to ask our tech team to please share the results of that African brand survey question. Could you please put that up for us? Oh, there's John. Okay.
Sorry.
Technology.
Technology. So to answer your question, there's and this actually, of course, the opportunities have always been there, but they've actually been amplified by COVID. In terms of mobilizing for investments, technology is big. In fact, about 350 startups, international startups, mainly from Europe and America, set up in Africa in the last 2 years. And going to the same issue I was discussing, I know the Ministry of Communications and ICT in Kenya has demanded that Kenyans innovators are given a big percentage because all those technology startups take all those innovations back home and they run away with all the money. So that's a huge opportunity. Agribusiness, like I said, and this is a lesson people learned. People must eat. Agribusiness is huge, and I keep meeting investors who are telling me they're looking for 200 acres, 1,000 acres, so they can come and set up, farming for this and that, for exporting and for local production. So that's huge. Real estate is huge, especially affordable housing, because population keeps increasing. And you know what's happening in Nairobi? Nobody wants now to rent, in high-end areas because of vulnerability of what has been happening. So low-cost housing opportunities is huge, and investors are looking for to invest in that sector. Healthcare, COVID has taught us a big lesson. Lots of investors are coming in to invest in healthcare. That was a huge challenge, and even now it's a big challenge. So that's a huge opportunity, and I've 2 or 3 contracts looking into that area. Manufacturing, which is what we all need to do for Africa, and especially in our country. I keep hearing about bottom-up approach to development, and I would say if someone can actually talk about manufacturing, create jobs, create goods for the regional market, and we are good to go, because that's the model that has worked in developed economies. Renewable energy is another sector. It's big, it's huge. We can't have enough energy, so investors are looking into those areas. And I think eventually the world will go into renewable energy. We're going to have cars which are run by water or the sun. And of course, other sectors are the usual ones, like mining, exploration for mining. It's a huge appetite for that. The other sector that was disrupted by COVID is transportation. Transportation, messed up our supply systems. That will always be, a big sector to invest in. And of course, the usual, government to government projects or public-private partnership. So those are the areas that have a huge interest. Of course, unfortunately, nobody wants to touch tourism. Unfortunately, that might take a long time to recover because of the fear of COVID. As long as it's COVID, people are scared of traveling. In fact, even last week, even the Dutch government actually advised its citizens not to travel because the numbers of COVID are still increasing. So that's a challenge. Air travel will still be, nobody wants to invest in that sector. Lots of jobs lost in the hospitality industry, like hotels, will take many years to recover. They may never be recovered. You know what's happening even in Kenya. Hilton, Norfolk shut down. Not Hilton, Intercontinental, and many others. So those sectors will take a long time to recover, and very few investors want to put in money in those areas. So those are the key areas where
Right.
there's a huge appetite for investment. Thank you.
And thank you for that. You know, and sort of going to, when you start to look at these financial flows, you know, I'm going to ask this question to Joy. You know, we have these statistics from the Economic Commission for Africa that pull some data together in collaboration with the African Union. And they said to us that by October 2020, remittances during COVID to Africa as a whole were at $78.4 billion. And this made up 11.7% of the global remittances. And what they've also found, and has been documented in the past, and as I'm sure you're aware, the remittances are usually sent by those people who are first generation immigrants, who still have a very strong connection and affiliation from their country of birth, right? So you're still looking at a huge number. And you also alluded to that in your presentation just now, Joy. So what I would like to hear from you is whether you think that this reflects the potential market that is out there for African brands. And you know, and you know, what do you think about that, and how has it been for you and your members in promoting or developing African brands to the diaspora?
Very, very good question there. And I appreciate that, because it's a very, very big discussion at the table about the diaspora remittance. And I also have, before I get there, I want to go back to Mr. Okisegere, just sorry for the pronunciation. But you said Africa are not on the table. That's our role as the diaspora, to put ourselves on the table. What is being shown here about remittance is already showing what the diaspora are doing, have been doing for a long time, because they just discovered now that we've been sending this money, and now it's becoming a big issue. We have been doing this for a long time, but we have not been noticed. And my work, and as well as my colleagues here who know me very well, I'm a very aggressive marketer when it comes to diaspora on the platform. We are making sure we are on the table. Whenever you see me online anywhere, I'm making sure that we Africans, we are on the table here in Europe, and it's very important. Now, come back to the question, the discussion of the diaspora and the remittance. And we have to agree with that. Most of our money have been sent mostly for the consumption, right? We send for our children, for our family, for real things like even education and a lot of support that is needed, but not real investments are there, but not really that much. And so what we've discovered is that most of our diaspora are not well informed. And how did we do that? Being an our diaspora organization, African Women in Europe, we decided to go back to Kenya and see how we can do this. So we have created the Diaspora Circle. And the Diaspora Circle is a way of showing members how to invest. Basically, the whole circle is about entrepreneurs, SMEs, and we're very categorized because we're choosing those ones who are really working with African-made products. So the whole idea is how to educate our diaspora members, how best to invest, because even the circle, and some of them are from Kenya in Europe because they're targeting women and men. You realize they have no idea what is circle, what is the info, what is it meant for them. So we are doing a lot of education in that area. And I have to say, this was a big thing because I also noticed not only here in Europe, it's also in the US, and so many people have been affected. As you know, we have invested in so many areas that we never want to do it again because we lost money, we lost a lot of trust in any system that comes from Africa. So here we are now coming with the already regulated organizations that they can already hop in. And due to that, we have come up also with a way of training. So the diaspora circles, myself and a lady in US with the KNAD circle, some of you know, who are opening events, they have billions in their accounts, coming to trillions very soon. And they are opening hospitals and things like that. We said, let's put together and have regular talks, discussion, and we're calling it like a dime talk. This is the diaspora information masterminds education. And we do this by helping the diaspora to understand what methods are there other than the old method of investment or buying land and property. There are things like bonds, government bonds. You need to help the government to start investing. And these bonds are very beautiful. You're getting 10% interest rate. In Europe, as you know, here it's, I think, -0 or something. So, and these methods have been there, and that's what the Europeans have been using for years. So how can we educate our people in that? So this has been going on for some time, and to the question how we can now bring these brands, ideas of African brands, like I told you, African women in trade, we've decided we are going now to focus only on African-made products. Then this includes that, so I showed you coffee, and actually I had to go and grab some because I'm very, very pragmatic person. I'm in Germany right now, I'm not in Kenya. We have some coffee here. I have and roasted in Kenya, right? And we have tea. And from Nigeria, very packed, beautiful products. I couldn't believe how much products out there. And the only need that most of our members need is market access. And I'm going to talk about also manufacturing. We have leather people. There's a lady, this leather is not from me, it's from Kenya, Siafu leather. This is a beautiful product that I bought from Kenya and it was sent to me through, of course, people traveling in Kenya. This is another logistic thing that we have to do. And we are not, I'm not the only one right now. I can tell you we then have distributors in African women in Europe, which is called Big Five. She's selling all those great products to big industries here in Germany. We have women who have then own hotels here selling the product. The other day I was looking for a wine from Kenya. And unfortunately, there's a lot of work we have to do with products in Kenya because we need to have them regulated. Let's put facts down. There are regulations here and we need to have certificates, the ISO, some of you know about it, they have to be really in good because the regulations here are very tough and we need to, how can we market these products? And as I said, we have brands there that we can already bring here and people want them. The other part is the customer care. The customer care is also an issue on the platform right now to make sure understand we are trying to sell your products and it's a very important position to really brand our members' products. So of course, we have a lot of these challenges as I'm mentioning there, and of course, with the businesses that I'm working right now in the Africa Women in Trade they're all macro, they're all not regulated. So we will need to work a lot to bring all this informal sector to formal and have these products regulated, branded. Don't forget some of these logos I'm showing you here, they're not trademarked, and some of these trademarks are very expensive. Like, for example, we need fair trade certificate. Fair trade certificate to get, it's very expensive for some of my members. And we need to find a way of breaking each other. These brands are ready for the markets and so that we can and compete with those people who are not Africans. And when I say that, our products here in Europe, you're seeing Chinese are the ones who are selling these African brands, and we diaspora, we are here now. This is changing because we want to be the people selling our product, because what comes in our pocket goes back to Africa and doesn't stay in Europe. So these are the things that we're looking for.
That's fantastic. And I'm looking at the time, and unfortunately we have to wrap up, and it's been such a fantastic conversation. But before we do, I'd just like to jump back and ask Mr. Ojepat, he mentioned just now in his presentation, he told us that at least in Kenya, the process of becoming an exporter has become much more simplified, something that we're really happy about. But also, just so you know, and I think Mr. Ojepat mentioned that too, there are very many different regulations that our exporters have to meet, depending on the market that they're sending their products to. So, I mean, the ones that you've talked about yourself, Joy, I think that especially when it comes to something like fresh produce, we're right up there in terms of it being a regulated sector. But before we wrap up, what I would really like to hear from all three of you is sort of a little bit like, we can call it your parting shot, if you will, but where we can look forward. Yeah, we understand the challenges we have. You've pointed some out. You've also given us some positive direction. And so what I would like to hear from you all is what sort of, where do you see African brands going? What sort of positive momentum can these African brands gain, given especially the fact that we're now in the process of trying to operationalize the Continental Free Trade Area, but also as we move out of this pandemic, what are some of those lessons that we have learned when the world had shut down, when it had shut down, that we can apply to African brands as we move forward? And I'll start it off with you, Mr. Ojepat. Please go ahead.
Thanks. One for me, I'm putting it out bluntly because I want Africa to believe in Africa and to get to know that we're the continent that gives solutions.
Absolutely.
A raw material and everything we have. The only thing we need to do is to quickly come together and then be able to look at being consistent and not giving up along the way. Consistency is a spirit, and this power when we negotiate as a team. And what I meant by being on the table is particularly when policies are made. It's important that we get information and that we can voice our voices and our concern, however small it is, and people listen. But we keep quiet until decisions are made and then we just take them in, we'll continue suffering. But I want to give you hope that when the world shut last year in March and April, we fed the world. Mm. I remember we did not close. I remember challenging KQ and KQ repurposed the flight. Mm-hmm. I remember sitting together with the government and telling them essential services is not anything other than food. And we never stopped and we fed the world. And that means we have potential to feed everyone. We just need to believe in ourselves, to keep moving forward, however small the steps are. And for the Kenyans, all Africans in the diaspora, it is time to tell us the truth. We must move from aid to trade and fast. And we must reach out to other African continents, getting to know that we are not competing among ourselves, but we are competing to put our products in the marketplace, and we need to sort out logistics. I like the way, can I bring one thing on the table? That Please. Today, I can tell you, Wangechi and the panel and anybody who is listening to me, that Kenya has the best cold chain in the world. Who has branded that?
Nobody, not yet.
Who knows that? We have the best cold chain in the world, better than Netherlands, that is the biggest exporter because of just being efficient. So if we can brand, let's believe, look at Safaricom. Whereas Safaricom is the leading innovation in terms of money transfer, the rest of the world has not spoken about it because we don't shout about it ourselves. So let's be proud of ourselves, but let's be disciplined and let's keep the focus. We must keep moving forward one step at a time and change the world. For the young men and women, there's hope in agri, because the only place you can go is agri. The rest, you will do anything, but you must eat. So let's add value, let's do many other things, and most importantly, let's brand and patent our brand so that people do not go and brand them out there and call it theirs. If we can do that, we have a future. We can do it. It is doable. It's possible. Let's speak about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. John, go ahead and give us your parting shot.
I think one of the most important things we need to remember is Africa has a population of 1 billion people, and that's a huge, huge market. So the Africa Continental Free Trade Area comes in to solve our huge problem. And I actually get alarmed when we keep thinking about selling to Europe and to America. If only Africans can trade among themselves, we are a winner. Let's trade at home first and we are a winner. Nothing else moves but our trade. Of course, in addition to that, I keep thinking we have to go technology and innovations. All these young people amaze me, creating softwares and apps that have no market. These are apps and technologies that we can use among ourselves instead of waiting for some startup from California or wherever to come and tell us what to do with that. So if we can leverage on our own innovations, Africa will go places. And then the final thing is manufacturing, value addition. Manufacturing, I keep saying manufacturing creates jobs, pay taxes, and the continent is happy. And you don't even need magic to do that. If our people have money, it's amazing how much money is stuck in banks in Nairobi. But we are looking for angel investors from Europe, and yet the angel investors would actually be in Kenya or in Uganda or in Tanzania. So I think we start, against what we were saying, we just need to start believing in ourselves and finding solutions for ourselves. Thank you very much. And thank you, Wangechi and Anne, for this opportunity. We hope, and of course, I forgot diaspora. Diaspora money can change things. If only we can get united as diaspora, we can, instead of looking for international investors, diaspora can organize themselves and invest in these opportunities, manufacturing, real estate, technology, but in an organized way, not buying a kalande in Kamuru, and then you come back to Kenya after 70 years. It will never help our people, or sending money only for consumption. Let's put kites together and change the situation and empower our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Joy, over to you.
I love that, John. Yes, we need to invest as diaspora, and that's what we are doing that, and happy to mobilize as many as possible. For me, since I've been working on the grassroots with the women, please, 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 trademark your products, make sure you own your brand, because it's not a brand if it's not registered and regulated. Even if we really want to market your product, we need to have them branded. And I'm happy some of you are coming up with very good brands. Get the product ready, but don't put it out there, because it's gonna be taken away by a lot of hungry wolves out here. I can tell you that, including other in Asian countries. So make sure we brand them properly and follow the Africa Continental Free Trade. John has said it, in the intra-continent, that's where the business is. Less regulation, you're getting free trade area. Africa Continental Free Trade Area is there for you. Please follow up that. Stop looking at Europe, stop looking at Asia, whatever. Look into the continent. Right now we have communication going on within country. Follow us. And Wangechi, for you, you said close friend is better than a far friend. Now I'm putting it the other way. Far friend is as better as a close friend. So the diaspora are here for you. Follow us and we'll be glad to work together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for your time, for your passion, because it came across. I'm so excited that all of you have our beautiful continent at your heart, and it comes across in everything that you're doing and in everything that you have shared. And yes, let us continue to work together, because this is the best place to be from, and it's the best place to be. Thank you. Anne, over to you.
All right. Thank you again, Wangechi, for doing a fabulous job moderating this session. I want to appreciate Mr. Ojepat, Mr. John and Joy for just sharing with us what you think about African brands. Anyone who knows me, I've been championing African brands. I say that is something we need to change. We need to change the story of Africa. We need to tell a powerful story, the true essence of Africa, which is beautiful. In fact, one of the things I will have to say about African brands, we're having a virtual trade expo. Go in and see Eva's Events and Flowers. One of the things we recognized during we've recognized the last couple of years, and that's why Eva's Events is there and Flowers, is that even Kenyans, local Kenyans don't take up Kenyan flowers. And we export so many flowers to the Netherlands. And if you look at places like the States, everyone is very excited that they are importing flowers from the Netherlands, but they don't understand that some of those flowers are coming from Naivasha in Kenya. But it's because we don't tell our stories. We don't tell people that this is what we produce. We don't tell people that the food being consumed in Europe is from Africa. The flowers are from Africa. The services offered, we don't. And so we need to position ourselves in the marketplace and share the great things that we're doing on this continent. So I was very excited when I was hearing Joy, John, and Ojepat just sharing what they think needs to be done. And we only know the way forward. The only way going ahead is forward and sharing positive stories about great African brands.